So today I am going to present the topic, very interesting topic called virtualization. Virtualization, let us start. What is exactly the virtualization? So generally, in today's era, we are using advanced machines. So one person is using one machine at a time, virtual machine at a time. So one person uses one machine, but how much percentage of that CPU, RAM, hard disk, processing power is used by one person at a time? One machine is the 20 to 30% of that machine resources used by a person at a time. Then what about that 70% resource? So due to virtualization, due to virtual machine concept or virtualization, that single machine is again divided into small pieces, and that single machine is used by multiple users at a time with the help of virtualization resources. So they are using the virtualization. So let us see what is actually the virtual machine, how this virtual machine look like. So here I have shown you the two images. One is without virtual machine, and the second image represents with virtual machine. Actually, virtualization is what the physical machine has CPU, then memory, hard disk, and network connections. So single OS owns all the hardware resources. So single operating system, this operating system owns all the physical hardwares. And based on that operating system, we install different applications, required applications, and we require the licensing of these applications. So without virtualization, the single CPU uses all the resources, and one that operating system uses the software, and that single machine is used by the single person. Even if that machine is again advanced, having higher configuration, but when we use the virtualization, when we use the virtualization, how to use the virtualization? Again, for using that virtualization, we have to use certain softwares. So virtualization provides us different types of software, different types of hypervisor. And what is the role of hypervisor in virtualization? Hypervisors are the softwares, are the techniques that gives us uh, one user can use single PC. So one PC can be used by multiple users at a time with the help of virtualization. So here one layer is added here. So while differencing these two diagrams, this layer is added. What this layer represent? So on the physical host hardware, we have installed that virtualization software. What is the advantage of virtualization software here? So same machine is again divided into on after virtualization software, you can install as many as operating system as you can based on the configuration of that particular hardware. So here, after installation of virtualization software, here this machine is divided into multiple virtual machine. Virtual machine 0, virtual machine 1, virtual machine 2, virtual machine 3. So here on this first virtual machine, I may use Windows operating system. Second machine, I may use Linux operating system. Third machine, I can use Mac operating system. And in this way, that single machine is divided into small virtual machines, and these virtual machines are again provided by the cloud provider as per the user requirement. Suppose I want Windows machine, then that cloud provider can provide same window machine to me. Again, second person want the Linux machine, then cloud provider can provide this second Linux machine to that user. Again, third user want the Mac OS and different operating system, Mac OS and different application. Then the third virtual machine is again assigned to third person. So in this way, that cloud provider use one hardware resource for multiple users. based on the configuration of that particular hardware. So multiple operating systems share the hardware resources. So single hardware resource is used by multiple operating system, and we are assigning the resources. How much percentage of how many percentage of that resource is used by a single OS. So that is defined by the user with the help of this particular software. Whenever we are installing the virtualization software, that virtualization software provide us a dashboard, and that dashboard gives us the idea to start the virtual machine, assign the virtual machine, then stop the virtual machine, or copy that virtual machine from one computer to another computer machine, restore. So all the operations are again provided with the help of software, and that name of that software is virtual machine monitor software. So this virtual machine monitor is nothing but the dashboard, and that dashboard provide us the management of virtual machine. So on one, suppose I have my one laptop. In that laptop, I can use Microsoft operating system, Linux operating system, then Mac OS, everything, different types of operating system and different types of software. And even I can share my machine to n number of people as based on the configuration of my resource. So this is the beauty of virtualization. And then the next concept comes. So what is the role of hypervisor in virtualization? So role of hypervisor. Hypervisor, as I have said that, if you want to convert your physical machine into a virtual machine and you want to share your resources through network to other people, then you must use the technology or the resource or the software called as hypervisors. And there are two types of hypervisors available in the market. So the first type is type 1 hypervisor and second is type 2 hypervisor. So what is the basic difference between these two softwares or two virtualization methods? So type 1 hypervisor. Type 1 hypervisor is what? Here, see the diagram, and through that through this diagram, you will get the idea. So type 1 hypervisor is what? The hypervisor, you require a physical machine. So I have taken one new machine, and that machine doesn't having any operating system. Just I have taken the hardware resources. So hardware resources means CPU, then processor, then hard disk, RAM, etc. So system hardware I have taken, and after taking this system hardware, I have to install the type 1 hypervisor. So type 1 hypervisor is directly installed on a hardware. No operating system is installed. You have just taken a physical machine, and on that physical machine, you are installing the software called hypervisor. So on physical platform, if you are directly installing the hypervisor, then you require type 1 hypervisor. So type 1 hypervisor doesn't require any operating system to install. Therefore, this type 1 hypervisors are also called as bare metal system. Bare metal system is you are taking the metals hardware and directly you are installing the hypervisor on that bare metal system. So hypervisors. So hypervisors, you take the physical hardware, then install the hypervisor, and after hypervisor, you can able to install different operating system, different virtual machines. So you, so this hardware in the image, I have created three. I have installed three different operating systems. So you can install Windows, all three Windows, or combination, one Windows, one Linux, one Mac OS. So any type of combination you can use. So type 1, how to identify the type 1 virtualization? You take the hardware, and on that hardware, top of that hardware, you are directly installing the hypervisor software. And what that hypervisor software provide you? That hypervisor software provide you one dashboard, and through that dashboard you are installing different operating system, and you are assigning a small portion of CPU to that operating system, to that virtual machine. So here three virtual machine means that single machine is divided into three virtual machine. So three virtual operating means three operating system we have installed. And how these operating systems are assigned? With the help of network, internet, we are assigning this virtual machine to the user. So what the cloud provider does? The cloud provider is not having many resources. So he use the single resource and he divides that single resource into multiple virtual machine, and then cloud provider assigning this virtual machine to the user. So type 1 hypervisor does not have any host operating system, means you are not installing any operating system on the hardware, you are directly installing the hypervisor, and based on the top of that hardware you are installing the guest operating system. It execute on bare system, bare metal system. Directly you are installing the hypervisor on the physical hardware. So examples, Zen is one of the type 1 hypervisor. So here the hypervisor software, you can take the hypervisor software of Zen. So they have the website, you go to that website and find out the pricing policy of that hypervisor. Zen is one of them. VMware ESXi. VMware is the leader in providing the hypervisor. A very big organization, and providing dedicated in providing virtual machines. So they have given the name accordingly, VMware. So they are producer of this type of hypervisor, type 1, type 2, type 2. Some company just providing type 1 hypervisor, and some companies providing both, supporting both types of hypervisor. So VMware support both type of hypervisors. They have the workstation, they have the fusion players. So VMware ESXi is one of the organization. Microsoft is also there in developing hypervisor software. So Microsoft Hyper V, then KVM. These are the some of the examples of type 1 hypervisor.